The Phoenix Suns are making moves day one of free agency as they picked up Mason Plumlee to be their new backup center to replace Drew Eubanks. This is a major upgrade. Plus, Eric Gordon is gone as he can go sides with the Philadelphia 76ers. We'll be exploring that and any more moves Matt Ishbia and James Jones can make for this Suns roster in free agency. All of that and more on this episode of Suns Digest. I'm Bruce Veliz. Before we get into all of this news, though, if you guys want to make sure to stay up to date on all the news as soon as it comes out, make sure to hit that subscribe button, as 78% of you guys who watch our videos are not subscribed, and we're so close to our goal of 1,000 subscribers. Without further ado, though, let's dive into the video at hand. Make sure to grab a snack. And like I mentioned, Mason Plumlee is the new addition for the Phoenix Suns this season. We want to dive in and look at this. Adrian Wojnarowski broke the news. I was driving home, dropping my friend off, and he told me that the Suns got a massive upgrade at the backup center position in Mason Plumlee as he agreed to a 1-year deal with this Phoenix Suns team. Now, if we look at the Suns' active roster, we've gone over this a plentiful of times. But the Suns are a team that are straggled in that second apron, and the only moves they can make are on the veteran move market. They've already made some additions with some player options, but now bringing in a guy in Mason Plumlee, I think, is a nice upgrade for this squad. If we want to look at a player in Mason Plumlee stats, we can see he averaged 5.3 points, 5.1 rebounds, and 1.2 assists on point 0.4 blocks per game, 0.3 steals on 57% shooting from the field as well. The 6'10 big is 34 years old, a veteran center, but a center that has been a solid backup for the Los Angeles Clippers for a multiple of seasons. Last year, he was a backup alongside Daniel Tice, and they shared that background back and forth, which was really, really great to see. Now, ultimately, I think Mason Plumlee is an upgrade at that backup center position compared to a guy in Drew Eubanks. Ultimately, I thought Eubanks could have been a guy who had some young potential coming over from the Blazers, where he seemed to look like a bright young center, but ultimately it just did not work out, and he declined that player option. The Suns went and got a veteran to replace him, and that goes to show you that this Suns team wants to contend, wants to compete still, wants to be at the top, and I think Mason Plumlee can serve as a solid backup center behind Yusuf Nurkic at this very moment at least, as a guy who can get 10 to 15 minutes and a guy who can be a decent shot blocker and can score pretty much in the paint at any cost. Pretty decent free throw shooter as well. Ultimately, I think a guy in Mason Plumlee is the key veteran, and a guy, if you're the Suns, is a typical right signing. Might not be the best signing, but is not the worst. Obviously, a guy that I would have liked the Suns to go out and get was a guy in Andre Drummond, but ultimately he went to the Philadelphia 76ers a little bit earlier in free agency. Now, if we want to look at this upgraded chart, it hasn't been fully updated with this Suns roster, but as we see, Beal, Booker, Allen, Durant, Nurkic, those five are all under roster. Damian Lee, Nazir Little, Ryan Dunn, Royce O'Neal, David Roddy, they are also under roster. Now with Bull, and now this new signing of Mason Plumlee, the Suns at this very moment have 12 total players under roster. Oso Ighodaro is on a two-way deal as he was their second-round pick. And as we know for free agents, Eric Gordon is gone, Drew Eubanks is going to be gone, and Bull is back. Since they are a second apron team, they cannot have the mid-level exception, have no way to get any players besides the veteran minimum. So those three other positions will look to be filled at that veteran minimum slot. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. How do you guys feel about the Mason Plumlee signing? I think that it was a smart one by the Phoenix Suns. Might have not have been the best, but I think that it was definitely not the worst. That dives into our next topic at hand, which is Eric Gordon gone. And we've been talking about this. We've been hinting at it already. The reports have kind of been in that Eric Gordon was going to decline his player option. He was not going to be here. And we kind of broke it down in some recent videos. So I'll just go over it a little shortly for you guys. But as you guys know, Eric Gordon is signing with the Philadelphia 76ers. That's right. He is reuniting with Daryl Morey from Houston, his old general manager, on a 1-year, $3.3 million deal, which is the vet minimum. Now, when looking at a guy in Eric Gordon, he contributed 11 points, 1.8 rebounds, and 2 assists per game on 44% shooting from the field and 38% shooting from three. As a 35-year-old veteran, that looks like it could be promising and could be producing. But to me and to my personal viewing of Eric Gordon, it seemed like it was very sporadic in those games. Sometimes it dropped 20, sometimes it dropped maybe 15. But then there's games where he's over 5, over 6 from 3, and games that you need him to step up from 3-point range. And that similarly cannot be happening with this Phoenix Suns squad, especially if they want to win a championship. They need their role players to be able to stay consistent. Plus, I think that the Suns realistically already have that role kind of filled out. They already have those superstars in Booker, Beal, and Kevin Durant who specialize in that 3-point shooting and in scoring ability. But not just that, Booker and Beal at that guard position are just better at that 3-pointer and that transition scoring than a guy in Eric Gordon. Ultimately, also having Grayson Allen, who you just extended as another guard that can do that, and also bringing back Royce O'Neal as a 3 and D wing. It mainly seemed like the Suns necessarily didn't need that added shooting off the bench that Eric Gordon would, present you if he was on the Phoenix Suns. Ultimately, I don't think that it was the worst decision that he was let go by the Phoenix Suns because I do think that they have some other roles that they could look at in free agency that they could need to fill, and I don't think Eric Gordon necessarily nearly filled those roles for the Suns. When you look at the Sixers, he could be maybe a guy that's a seventh, eighth, maybe an eighth or ninth guy, possibly even seventh guy to come off of their bench to be a scorer for Joel Embiid. And I do expect him to get some, minutes in their rotation, but I don't expect him to be this, standout role player or, expert class guy that's going to revitalize his career on this Sixers squad. I ultimately do think he's going to be an end of a bench guy for them. But let me know what you guys feel about Eric Gordon leaving as well, because that is also some big news revolving around this Suns team. And lastly, let's get into what else we want in free agency. As you guys know, CJ and I have been preaching that we want a point guard to come to free agency, and Eric Gordon, the guard, has left. But unfortunately for Suns fans that have wanted this reunion with Chris Paul and the Suns, as we all know, he is going to the Spurs on a 1-year, $11 million deal. As we know with this Suns team being a second apron team and a luxury tax team, even though CP did get bought out, they would have not been able to pursue him in free agency because they did not have the money to be able to get him in free agency. Therefore, him going to the Spurs, I think, is a smart thing for Chris Paul to be able to do. But now, as the Suns look for more needs in free agency, like we mentioned, have 12 guys under roster, 3 more left to go, and the only way they can get them is by veteran minimum exceptions due to the fact that they are $20 million over the the second apron. They do not have any way to get the non-tax mid-level exception or any of those other exceptions to be able to get anybody like some other teams are trying to get guys like Klay Thompson. But I do expect the Suns to target some other point guards. We do know guys like Chris Dunn, guys like Kyle Lowry. Those guys are available. Even Russell Westbrook's available in trade, which I don't think would be a smart move for the Suns to look at. But as we know, there are some guys that they could look at to be a backup point guard that could, come out, facilitate. Doesn't necessarily need to finish every single game, but if a guy like Booker, Allen, Royce O'Neal, regardless of somebody in that starting contingent, can't not, finish the game due to foul trouble or having an inconsistent shooting night, this point guard can finish a game. But ultimately, this point guard can set up an offense, get the offense rolling, and play, between 10 to 15, maybe even 18 minutes a night, just to make sure they have another fresh leg in that guard rotation to have that true facilitator to set up Booker and Beal. Ultimately, it doesn't need to be an impact starter, but it needs to be somebody that can come and play some impact minutes. I do think the Suns should be looking at that. They do have that backup center now in Mason Plumlee. They do have a lot of wings. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. What are the 3 things that you think the Suns should go out and get for those final 3 roster spots? As you guys know, Mason Plumlee is an upgraded Drew Eubanks. I'm excited. You guys should be excited. Let us know your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you want to make sure you stay up to date on everything revolving around this Phoenix Suns team, up to date at ASAP. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We are so close to 1,000 subscribers, and CJ and I would greatly appreciate it. Once again, I'm Bruce Velez. Have a great rest of your night, and go Phoenix Suns.